It's good. If you just
Is it loud now?
You just muted it.
I muted it.
It's on. So
It's muted.
Oh,
Now
it's
it's
good.
It is pretty high up here.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
So just hold it until it's green.
No,
There you go,
just-
perfect.
just-
He's got it.
Just touch it and it's green.
He's got
Good
it.
morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I am Douglas, practitioner here at Center of the Heart. And so just be still in your seats. This is the invocation, which is another way of saying the blessing of the service. So just be...
There's
Are
music
you
on?
signaling?
She's standing or
Okay.
it's George.
All right, so you can just get quiet, close your eyes. Let us recognize that right here, right where we are, is the very presence of the living Spirit, God within. And know that this Spirit sustains and maintains each and every one of us. It is the truth of our very being. It's all-knowing, all-wise, all-loving, all-good, infinite, everywhere present, in every moment, all-powerful, all-knowing. And so in recognition of this oneness, recognition of this presence, we unify ourselves, knowing that it is the very fiber of our being. And so we give thanks this morning for each and every one of you who are here. We give thanks to all who serve this center. Our core members, our core council members, our musicians. I think that's Roxy in the sound booth, EJ and George, who let the harmony of the spheres, as they say, come through them, producing beautiful sounds, beautiful music. We give thanks to our practitioners who serve, maintaining prayer vigil for all who are a part of this fellowship here at the Center of the Heart. And so, knowing that all is well and all is good, we give thanks. I release these words into the divine mind, knowing that they are taken in and they are manifested here right now in this very place. And so, with an attitude of gratitude, we give thanks, we release this prayer. Together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
And so this morning I'm reading a particular page or two out of a book called How to Pray Without Talking to God. And actually heard the author, her name is Linda Martella Whitsitt. She's a minister with Unity. And Linda and I had the opportunity to listen to her give us a talk, and then her book was there. And the title caught my attention. And so as I was reading through this, there was a section that stood out, and I thought it was very relevant to all of us. What she's really saying here is that when we pray, this is very science of mind, we pray not to speak to God, because that sets up a sense of separation. We pray so that we come to know that God is within us, and that the truth of what God is us. We're not all of God, but the fact is that when we pray, it's to come to a knowing of our oneness with God. So I'm going to read a little section here that I think is appropriate. It says, one purpose in prayer. We may think we pray for relief from pain and painful feelings, to gain reassurance during times of doubt and worry, or to plead for something or someone to be changed. When we are ready to evolve beyond that fallacy, we have to reframe our purpose for prayer. In the past, we would have pleaded with God to heal our pain, but now our prayer intention is to embody our divine capacity for wholeness. We know that divine nature is wholeness, and divine nature is ours. Therefore, we are made from divine wholeness. We have the divine capacity to experience wholeness in the midst of all circumstances, including painful ones. We discover through prayer that pain is a passing condition, whereas wholeness is independent of fleeting conditions. Pain recedes in the face of spiritual realization. Wholeness flows continuously. A few years ago, I required a new purpose for prayer. Having raised my children, prayed my way through my son's 4 years in the military, lived beyond my first half century, achieved unity ordination, passed my 5-year anniversary as a minister of unity in San Antonio, and reached year 30 in my marriage, I had many reasons to feel fulfilled. Every dimension of my life pulsed with purpose. The drama meter rarely signaled. Life hummed. I got restless. I began to sense that feeling fulfilled was overrated, or at least it was temporary and fading fast. What next? What else? Became a new drumbeat within, growing bolder and more emphatic every day. Thinking the drama meter was signaling, I tried ignoring those feelings of restlessness. Instead, I sat through my daily prayer practice, experiencing less and less satisfaction. I could not pray to God, because by then I was sure God was not a superhuman listening to my complaints. I could not comprehend God as a non-person, but I certainly had no way to pray, if not to a superhuman. I went through the motions, pressing on in ways I had learned to do during times of spiritual drought. All the while I, an ordained minister, was feeling disillusioned about the most fundamental spiritual practice. I recited empty affirmations in the hopes they would stimulate some inspiration. Meanwhile, I fantasized about leaving my husband, running away from my church, reneging on my responsibilities, and ditching my friends. Unhappy in every way, I reached out for support. I found a wonderful therapist who assisted me in making sense of my emotions. I received powerful prayer support and gained insight from my spiritual counselor, who listened as I talked through the spiritual implications of my emotional depression. Over time, I noticed that dissatisfaction with my work and home life were symptoms rather than primary concerns. Nothing was wrong with my church or my husband. I started to see there was one common denominator in all my unhappy circumstances. It was me. Darn it, don't you hate that? My understanding of divine nature had been evolving, but I had been wavering in accepting divine nature as my nature. I suffered from incongruence, teaching about divine identity, but failing to claim divine identity consistently in prayer or in daily living. Furthermore, I struggled for authenticity as a spiritual leader, uncomfortable speaking words of spiritual authority without feeling them alive within me. I strove tirelessly to rise above self-doubt and disillusionment when providing spiritual direction to others. I could see in others their divine identity and even offer them spiritual strategies for thinking and acting accordingly. But I was in the midst of a profound period of questioning that appeared to me endless and tedious. Pragmatist that I am, I probed and journaled and conversed and meditated my way up and out of suffering. I committed myself to praying anew, to being authentic in prayer. I agreed to study prayer more intently, to gain spiritual understanding and new purpose. I thought if I am one with God, and God is love, then I am love. I contemplated the meaning of divine love. I claimed divine love as my true nature. I began realizing how divine love moves in me, how divine love behaves in the world. My awareness of the divine love that I am grew It was like a vein receiving a blood transfusion. As new blood revitalizes the body, divine love revitalized me. Amazingly, my mood began to lift. I became interested once again in my divine identity and the divine identity of others. I realized this is the purpose of prayer, to assert my divine identity. In the same way, I contemplated divine life, divine wisdom, divine power, divine order, and all the attributes of the divine. Claiming divine capacities became my daily prayer practice, far more empowering than mea culpa and Lord, I am not worthy. I came to realize we pray for one reason, and one reason only. All reasons for prayer can be distilled down to one. We pray to claim and assert our divine identity so that we can live more fully from it. We pray so that we may embody divine nature. This type of prayer is called affirmative prayer. Although I had been teaching about prayer for years, my realizations about affirmative prayer led to renewed passion that ignited desire for prayer practice in the minds and the hearts of my students. And so it is.
So it is. All right.
And that's, so